The Comfortably Zoned Radio Network proudly presents Charlie Vascellaro's Baseball Emporium.
Hello, this is Charlie Vascellaro for the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and my special guest today is Roland Hemond, a longtime baseball man, a consummate baseball man, and we're here to talk. We're at the winter meetings in Washington, D.C., with all of what's going on now, but we're also here to talk about the Arizona Fall League, which is the top prospect league in the nation, and it was founded 25 years ago, actually maybe a little bit more, because it's the 25th anniversary this year, by Roland. And we had a conversation the other day, Roland, about how this all went down. Can you remind me about how your idea was first received?
Well, the first time I made the presentation at a general managers meeting, it was about 1991, I believe, and I had an idea that it was getting increasingly difficult to send players to winter ball. I had had some good luck where you send a player to winter ball and he sees real good pitching, and he comes to the spring training and he was a better player and understood the problems also of the Latin players coming into the United States to play. But in any event, when I saw that it was getting more difficult, that maybe we should have a league of the best prospects of each organization. So it would comprise 35 players each roster with 7 of their top prospects, whether they were in Class A, Double A, Triple A, just that they were legitimate, outstanding young players. And so that's how I made my presentation. And Al Rosen, one of the general managers, kind of liked the idea, but I didn't get any really substantial support from the others in the meeting. But then the following year, Wayne Granger, who had been a pitcher with the St. Louis Cardinals, had called me, and he wanted to start a fall league in Florida, and he said he had some investors ready to invest in that type of league. But then after he left, right away, Al Rosen said, well, Roland proposed something along these lines, and you guys didn't give him any support whatsoever. And he said, why don't we try it? And I said, well, Arizona is actually in the fall better weather than Florida, because Florida is noted for hurricanes at that time of the year, a lot of flooding, a lot of rain. And if that were the case, players might be in a hotel for a week and waste time. So it picked up steam, and then Dan O'Brien, who was the general manager at Texas Rangers, he said, well, we should run it ourselves, he says, Major League Baseball or us as the teams, because if you farm it out to somebody else, they'll never run it the way you really want. So then Bill Murray of the commissioner's office picked up the ball for us. I made a presentation to the owners, and they said, yeah, let's go. And it has been extremely successful, as everyone knows. We always have rookies of the year. Most valuable players in the major leagues have risen to the heights of the Fall League. All sorts of awards that have been presented to players who have advanced as all-stars. And also, in running the league ourselves, we developed umpires. We've developed front office people.
Field managers,
and they're scouted themselves as field managers by scouts of other organizations when they see how much a particular manager or a coach is applying himself to help the players, regardless of what organization they belong to. And then all of a sudden they get a job or to be a coach in the major leagues possibly, and then be major league managers.
Yeah, it's a real concentrated effort. You know, the whole idea that the season is packed into 6 weeks, is it?
Right.
Yeah. And, everybody's really on the spot the whole time. There's no time for, easing into it. It seems like you got to hit the ground running when you come into the fall league. You're coming out of your regular season with regard to players and managers and everybody involved, because it starts just about the time that the regular major league season is ending. is a little bit of overlap there. And then it runs into the World Series, which we saw in spectacular fashion this year when Kyle Schwarber from the Cubs actually worked out in the Fall League and getting his first at-bats and his first look at pitching in a major league, well, let's not say major league pitching, but his first look at quality pitching in a long time. He was injured in the third game of the season out in Arizona and missed almost the whole year. And then he used the Fall League as his final tune-up, and a week later, he's in the World Series.
Right.
Another thing about the league that I love, you talked about the weather in Florida possibly being rainy or even maybe cold. When you go to the Fall League games in Arizona, it's just like being at a spring training game. It's to me, it's every bit as comfortable to be sitting in Arizona in November as it is in March.
And we have tremendous training camps that are utilized with great lights, fine playing facilities, the grass, the whole ballpark is first class. So
yeah,
it's great. They're almost like playing in the big league and preparing naturally for it.
For the players and the fans,
right.
I'd say it's a real fan-friendly experience being at a Fall League game because, yes, you do get to go to these brand-new ballparks in some cases where the Cubs play at Sloan Park in the spring is utilized in the Fall League. Scottsdale Stadium, the beautiful classic ballpark there in downtown Scottsdale is one of them. And now you've worked in some of the newer ones like the Dodgers and White Sox shared facility in Glendale, which I like more and more every time I go there. One of the things about the Fall League that you said to me when we last spoke about it was how sometimes minor league statistics can be a little deceptive when guys are doing well in their individual leagues, but that doesn't happen in the Fall League because of they're facing the cream of the crop. Can you explain that a little bit? You had an expression that you used for that, and I can't remember what it was. But
well, some players feast on mediocrity,
that's
so to
what
speak.
It was.
So they're hitting the second line pitching in the minor leagues, even in Double A or Triple A, and the stats look real good. But you say, well, who did they hit again? And then, but in the Fall League, it's top-notch pitching and top-notch hitting. So
yeah.
You've got to apply yourself because you'll be overmatched if you don't. And it prepares them to be winning players as well. And they have hot pennant races, they have playoff games, and I love it. And I have so many people that come from other parts of the country who will stop me at a Fall League game and say, hey, we're on vacation again, and we picked coming to Arizona because we love the Fall League so much instead of going some other part of the country.
Yeah, in my capacity as a writer, I always come to spring training for the entire month, but I don't always get all of the Fall League, but I kind of wish I did. This year I was able to catch the last 2 weeks of it, which was very entertaining and included the Hall of Fame induction ceremony and the championship game. A lot really elapses in that 6 weeks, and you talk about learning how to be winners. I thought it was kind of funny that this year, the championship team, which was the Mesa Solar Sox, they won the whole thing.
Yes.
And on their team were players from the Cleveland Indians and the Chicago Cubs. So talk about winning. These guys come out of the World Series, well, their organization does, and then their minor leaguers that get sent to the Fall League also win that championship.
Yeah, they celebrate like they won a world championship.
Oh, yeah.
They recognize that they have impressed scouts from other organizations as well as their own, and that it won't be too long the following spring that they may win a job to be a legitimate major leaguer.
And when you think about that level of competition, I think it was very evident this year. The 6 teams in the Fall League, there was not a lot of disparity. As a matter of fact, the championship wasn't decided till the day before who was going to be in it because the teams had all kind of compiled records that were hovering near 500. They were beating each other routinely, good talent against good talent, and it was hard for any one team to really pull away from the pack this year.
And the major league clubs deserve credit, the general managers, the farm directors, their scouting directors, to send the right players to compete along this level.
Yeah.
And then this has opened opportunities for the Latin players to not be sitting on the bench watching the American player at winter ball. They're out there themselves, and then all of a sudden they come to spring training and they compete real well for major league jobs.
I'll tell you, the time in between the end of the fall league season and the beginning of the spring training season seems to be getting shorter and shorter every year. Seems like we just fold right out of one season and into the next, and the familiarity with the young players. When you're watching these guys in the fall, seems like just a few weeks later, there they all are wearing those big high numbers in the spring training season, and sometimes they don't always get right into those spring lineups, but they're there. Yeah. And you'll see them in the inter squad games, and you'll see them get the call later in the innings and earlier in the season, where you're seeing more of the minor leaguers in the spring season. So it's almost seamless.
Yes.
I want to remind our listeners, this is Charlie Vascellaro, and we're on the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and I'm interviewing Roland Hemond at the winter meetings here in Washington, D.C. Let's change the subject just a little bit. Let's switch to the winter meetings right now. There's so much going on down there, on the floor. Everybody bumping into everybody, and everybody looking for some kind of lead on a story or a job or something. Talk about the hot stove league season and how this winter meetings is so exemplary of that and everything that's going on.
Yeah, it is very exciting. And naturally, we're all pleased that the labor agreement gets settled just in time for the Major League the winter meetings to open on time. And it is certainly hectic and exciting, and I'm sure there'll be some major trades made. There'll be some Rule 5 draft picks that will make Major League teams next year. So it's good for baseball to be in the limelight during the off season like it is.
And, there's a kind of a celebratory nature to all of this, too. It's not just the business that's going on. It's the idea of the baseball community convening in the winter and seeing each other, guys all wearing plain clothes instead of uniforms, or wearing suits instead of uniforms, and talking about other things, too, like Thanksgiving and the holidays and stuff like that. So one of the things I like about it is that the great mingling that goes on here. You've been doing it for years.
Well, despite the fact that it's very competitive as far as trying to make trades and everything, the friendships that endure and that you've made 50 years ago, and you're seeing your friends from 50 years ago, and we're reminiscing some, but we're still active, so that keeps our minds excited about the fact that your buddies are here. Some of them receive rewards, the announcements of some of them going into the Hall of Fame. So it's joyous, it's a celebration. And I think the public gets to see it better and better nowadays with the television highlights that they can produce every single day.
Oh, yeah, the media coverage of this is spectacular. When you walk the floor and you see every TV station has got some kind of live remote set up, and every newspaper has their guy out here, all the beat reporters, and that's another funny thing when you talk about the competition. These guys are all trying to get a leg up on each other and get some kind of scoop on these stories, but they're all in the same room, and they're talking to each other, but they're holding their cards close to their chest, too, and that's a funny dynamic to watch at play. They want to share and be friendly, but nobody wants to get scooped, and these stories come out so fast. It happens with lightning speed. I see my friend Barry Bloom working the floor, and then I turn on my phone, and he's got a story posted that's coming in my email box just a couple hours later. So it does happen with rapid fire transition. So last year we were in Nashville for these meetings, and this year we're in Washington, and both times we were at the Gaylord Convention Centers. These are some tremendous properties. You could get lost walking around here.
Frank Robinson used to say, I'm not going with you because we never get to our room, because people would stop me for looking for jobs or want to talk trade, and we're trying to go to a meeting in our own bailiwick, and everybody would be waiting for us. And where are you? Well, we were, encumbered by people stopping to pass on how's your family and all that stuff, but we had work to do.
Well, I agree, and I saw a little bit of that yesterday. I agree with Frank, and it's tough to leave a room with you because you always get stopped. And yesterday there were some Baltimore fans who recognized you from the old days in Baltimore, and a father and a son, and the kid had a little autograph book that he came over and asked you to sign your signature, and then you were kind enough to take off your World Series rings and let the kid try those on. and then everybody had to take a picture. And I don't even remember what we were on our way to do before that all started.
Okay. Well, we have a lot of laughs and good fun.
Yes, and you're a very accommodating autograph signer. When we were down at the Fall League for that Hall of Fame ceremony, and this year Adrian Gonzalez of the Los Angeles Dodgers and Chase Utley of the Phillies, most recently of the Dodgers as well, were honored as this year's recipients of the Arizona Hall of Fame, Arizona Fall League Hall of Fame. And that's a testament to the league. Now, after 25 years, you look at that lineup of Hall of Famers that have accumulated in the time since the league has started. But I was going to say about autographs, I know a couple of kids were asking those guys for their autographs at the Hall of Fame ceremony, but I think more people were asking for your autographs that night at the ballpark than any one of those guys in the Fall League Hall of Fame.
Well, there may be little guys like me who don't realize that they probably would never be major league players, so they try to find and get my job.
And the other thing about your autograph is it's very easily legible. Not like some of these guys today that just scribble on the ball and you got no idea who's there. When you sign your autograph, I can read every letter in your name.
Well, the nuns back at school in Rhode Island taught me well, and if you didn't make it legible, they'd slap you with their
a ruler.
A ruler.
Yeah, on your knuckles.
So
yeah.
So you had to learn in a hurry to make the legible signing.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, anything that you're going to go away with in particular from this year's winter meetings? I mean, well, let's go back 1 second. When you talked about Arizona Fall League, you weren't even in Arizona yet. You were working, where were you in 92 or 93 when the Fall League was started? You joined with the Diamondbacks a few years later.
Yeah, well, I've been in Baltimore.
So from afar, you had experience in the state of Arizona with regards to previous positions, I would imagine, and different times spent in the spring. But how did you decide on that over, obviously, the weather, but you had...
Well, I've been both places, Florida and Arizona, and the training camps also in Florida were greater distances for driving, and that you wasted time being in a car instead of being on the field.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah,
I think
right.
that all of the parks in Arizona are in about a 30-mile radius in the greater Phoenix metropolitan area because Tucson isn't in the league anymore.
Yeah, right.
But now it's really tight. I might take it a step further and say the ballparks in Arizona are newer than the ballparks in Florida as well.
Yes, they are. Well, they haven't been training here as long as in Florida. So the facilities are outstanding. I mean,
yeah.
I tell the story about I train in Waycross, Georgia, minor league training camp of the Milwaukee Braves. And I used to go there, and they had the barracks for keeping the players in the barracks. They were on pedestals so that if it rained, it didn't flood. But on the other hand, they had gas heaters, and I used to be scared. I said, my gosh, if the gas goes out, the flame goes out, somebody may die. And they said, Roland, don't worry about a thing. We have so many cracks in the walls. We have great ventilation.
No way
so we never lost a player.
Never had a gas fire down there in Waycross.
No.
Huh, that's funny. Well, let's save some of this conversation for our next conversation. I want to talk to you someday about the early years with Hank Aaron and stuff like that. But I think we've done enough of a program for today that we'll call it quits for now. And maybe when we revisit again, we can jump in where we left off.
Well, Charlie, I love your enthusiasm and your love for the game, so it's always a pleasure for me to do a show with you.
Well, thank you very much, Roland. You bet.